song by Layla Mudrad and Albi Dalil. Now we'll be moving on a more serious front. The majority of Egyptians believe that the Egyptian, regardless of their gender, social level, religion, or political affiliation, should have the same right of political participation. A recent survey published by Basira, the Egyptian Center for Public Opinion Research, stated that 83% of respondents agree that women should have equal rights as men when it comes to political participation and equal opportunities as men when it comes to parliamentary elections. To be speaking about this topic and more, we're joined with Dr. Zainab Shaheen. She's the professor of sociology and also a consultant on women issues. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Dr. Zainab. Let me start off first. And I wanted to ask you, it's very easy for people, especially men, to say we accept women in the parliament and we'd love to have them, but in reality, it does not happen.
You know,
what do you think?
That's exactly was going to be my takeoff.
Yes, please.
Because the figures you have illustrated, 83%, I think you said,
yes.
Suggest or approve that there must be equal opportunities for men and women with regards to elections, political participation.
But maybe they asked women only. Maybe they asked.
This is a very interesting methodological question.
Yes.
We have to know who are the respondents, age bracket, etc., background, rural, urban, a lot of ifs, if we really want to give a rationale for whatever we're discussing. So my concern is there is always a discrepancy between what is said, what is advocated, and what is implemented. There is a discrepancy between institutional rights. Women have institutional political rights starting from 1956, and ever since there are rules stipulated, there are advocacies concerning this aspect. Authorities are concentrating on that, and when it comes to implementation and when it comes to reality, there is a big gap between what is said, what's advocated, what's proposed, and what's implemented,
and what's actually taking place.
And there is a big gender gap.
Yep.
Sorry, we moved from an Albi Dalili to this reality.
Yes.
Yes.
I think this was a way to present to the viewer, this hard topic or serious topic in an easy way.
So, we'll try to simplify it.
Simplify it, yes. Along with the music, if you're looking at the upcoming parliamentary elections, do you think things will change? There has been, this motion, a lot of people are supporting the idea of having a good and representable women participation within the upcoming parliament. Do you think it's going to be happening?
Well, I am optimistic to a point. There could be slight development in women's actual participation, presence, representation. It is about 3% representation in parliament now, or was. Now we don't have any parliament. But I think it might work out if we follow what is called affirmative action. If we allow seats, seats are allowed to women, assigned seats, if there is a real serious budgeting to campaigns, funds for women's campaigns, their awareness about women's role in this respect, and what is expected of them, and how can they persuade those who in election. So if these measures are carried out, and carried out properly, and carried out authentically and seriously, I think it might improve.
So let me ask you this question. I'm sorry to just a
follow-up
question on this. Do you think in the developed countries, do they have a quota for women to be in the parliament? Because this is also against equality if we're speaking about the equal chance.
There is what we call equity, in the sense that we have a very interesting Arab saying, we give the young support until he gets older, and we give the needy until he, or the sick or the ill until he recovers, and those who are in distance until they come back. الصغير حتى يكبر. This saying. So by the same token, we try to support women or whatever social group in society that are in dire need for support at one point, historical point, at one contextual, socio-contextual economic situation.
Yes.
Until further notice, until they are empowered, until they can make it, then we can take it off. This is equity more than equality. At this point, we don't need equality because we cannot give equal
We need to start.
shares because we're starting differently.
Yes.
So insaf, equity is what we need at this point. So affirmative action, by the way, it's not implemented only in developing countries, in the developed world as well. If there are areas where I know, for instance, in Europe, in some countries, when it comes to application for a job, and they gender, men and women, and they have exactly the same qualifications or similar
Very close.
qualifications, they would choose women because they are following the affirmative action. Because the women have been historically deprived,
so they're giving her
and
the
therefore
chance.
it is a compensatory mechanism, compensation for this deprivation until they can do it, and then they.
Dr. Zainab, as we started at the beginning, and we were saying that there's a huge gap between what we say and how we can implement it in terms of the women's participation politically. As a professor of sociology, how do you think we can overcome this gap?
We have to really emphasize value system change, cultural, structural, cultural change.
Okay.
No matter what we say, it is not easy to implement because there are deep-seated belief that the women traditional role is confined to the domestic sphere. And politics is a realm. It is not made for women. And
So we have
therefore
to
it's
change the
very
culture.
easy. It's very difficult to erase all these cultural inheritance.
Ideologies
takes
in the
time.
minds.
You know, they say old habits die hard and values die hard. There is also a cultural, there is always a lag between technological innovations and change of values. So by the, similarly, there is always a gap between what we say, what we advocate, human rights, realizing development achievements, and how women's input and participation is a major requirement for development, and really doing it. We can say a lot, we can advocate a lot, and for your information, I would like to emphasize that women also are not very excited about it because they have been raised and socialized in the same cultural and social milieu, and therefore, according to many women that I interviewed, they would say, we have enough. We have enough on our plate. Dual career system, working inside the house and working outside, and no matter how much a husband is progressive, yet it is expected that she undertakes special roles in the house and he other roles outside the house. So she has also deeply engraved in her system that this is her role and most important role, and let's not challenge it.
And actually, Dr. Zainab, there are a lot of women who are able to carry on both the domestic and the career as well.
Yes.
Women are pretty strong
Yes,
and
but-
sturdy.
But, well, I would like to emphasize a very important point vis-a-vis this militant women who can do both jobs efficiently and effectively, and you name it.
Yeah.
This is not justice. There was a traditional equilibrium where men were assuming economic role and political role, and women were confined to the domestic sphere, and everyone was very aware of his or her role without any kind of conflict. But now this traditional equilibrium was shattered, and there was a transformation in husband-wife expectations and the roles. Women were allowed or were given the right to work outside employment sector, but men did not move inside the house. By inside the house, I don't mean that he has to carry all household chores, but there must be sharing. Development requires participation, sharing in the domestic sphere, in the family sphere, in the employment sphere, economic sphere, and in the political sphere. So acceptance of sharing, of participation, of togetherness. I am not going to help you, to assist you. It's not a matter of, donations, voluntary. Both should collaborate
And
in
which we,
maintaining a
of
happy
course,
family. Both should collaborate in maintaining economically sufficient family that is
It's a partnership. It's definitely a partnership.
exactly,
apparently this
and
is
both
not
should
what, that's not
participate
what's happening.
in the political sphere, because it's women's right to vocalize her needs and priorities and interests, and all of this should be pronounced. I would like to seize this opportunity and mention 1995 World Women Conference in Beijing. The slogan, the motto was, looking at the world through women's eyes. This can only be recognized and realized through women's participation in decision-making positions, whether in economics or in...
What is the world in your eyes? In your eyes?
Participation, justice, gender equality, gender equity.
And
sharing, participation, all this is really what I see as a developed world.
So you think it's about respect? You think the issue is respect?
I like very much the term mawadda wal rahma, mercy and love, that should be there in man-woman relationship, husband-wife relationship, and human beings at large.
Yes.
Also, I would like to emphasize that we are now in a stage of development. We need to develop, we need to progress. And therefore, when we talk about women's participation, it's not a choice. It's, I mean, it's not, you know, to participate or not to participate. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. It's a
role, it's a duty.
It is a basic requirement for development. It's no joke. It is a basic requirement.
Yes. Finally, I'd like to ask you about your dreams, not only on the political aspect, but very briefly on what you really dream of in Egypt to be happening soon.
You don't want to listen to a song like all at once you find your dreams are coming true.
Yes.
You know this? So you turn it on.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is that, you know, maybe sometimes you dream of a long-term dream, but sometimes you also dream of a very short-term dream that you really wish to see happening in Egypt.
And with women, especially, women.
Excuse me?
With regards women in particular,
I wish
being a woman.
And this is equity.
a nation
So we can be fair.
realizing social justice. When we come to social justice, we talk of women too. Social justice, ameliorating the conditions of needy groups, social groups in the society, whatever minorities we have and whatever affiliation they belong to, and women is one of these minorities. Minorities, by the way, it doesn't have to do with numbers, it has to do with privileges and rights.
Yeah.
Dr. Zainab Shaheen, we really enjoyed having you today. It was really a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much,
I
Doctor.
enjoyed you too.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you very much.
It was our pleasure. Thank you for being with us today.
This brings us to the end of this edition of Nile Cruise. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. And I will leave you with the final musical segment and going back to Noor Muhammad and the final song.
Song with فيها حاجة حلوة. So let's go and enjoy it.
يا فندم.